I have no way of telling if it's working or not.
It should be. You want me to come check it?
There's a little red light on
Oh,
top.
that means it's working.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Martha, and I'm so glad you're here today.
Hi, Martha. And I'm sorry for the interruption.
No problem. We all have our getting used to's when we're doing new things, and that's okay, Mac. In fact, it's just perfectly okay. It was meant to be. So I'm just welcoming everybody today and saying hello and glad you're here, and what a beautiful sunny day to celebrate a wonderful life on planet Earth. And I want you to know, for the newcomer lady, that I am the sister of Lazarus, and I have some new information to add to that today for some of you who have been following these. I'm also a cousin of Jesus. He was part of my family in the Essenes, and you're going to learn a lot more about that when St. Germain comes in today. So I just wish you a very happy day, and I'm going to have John come in and you can ask him all your questions. So toodaloo.
Toodaloo.
Good afternoon, I am St. Germain. I'm sorry, we have the wrong person in line. I need to back off a minute and let John come in. This is the day of upsets. Good afternoon, I am John the Divine, and I am glad to hear and see everybody here today.
Hi, John.
And hello and welcome everybody, and we have a new person today, and I would like to introduce myself to you, and would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Kathy Harris.
Kathy, we're so glad you're here,
Thank you.
and I hope you brought some questions. And Susan, we haven't seen you for a long time.
Hello.
You came for healing a long time ago. And you're always welcome. Everybody is welcome on the Thursday afternoon healings, and there's no charge. So if anyone needs to do that, you're always welcome to come to Camp Edgewood at 2 o'clock. And Mac and Marilyn are there for you. So it's usually very beneficial, and people have had some wonderful results. And since we're here this afternoon, and the word went out that I was willing to answer your questions today, if you have brought them, we'd be glad to do that. Does someone have a question? There's not time to be shy. There's something you always wanted to know but were afraid to ask.
I'll ask a question, John. On a spiritualist side, do you have days and nights like we have? I know that there's no time, so is it just a constant? Are your surroundings relatively constant?
Exactly. You see, the dawn can come and be less obvious as you have here on Earth. It kind of goes into a more less definitive darkness and time, so that there is kind of a repose, you might say, when people would be more calm and relaxed and reflective time rather than a sleeping time. But predominantly it is a bright and cheery time where people are out celebrating, doing things together, taking care of responsibilities, and it just continues on. And then the times when rest comes along, then usually there is less brightness, but basically it's all considered one time.
Another question: when members of my family have passed over, we're told that they're in a healing situation right after passing over, which is similar to being in a sanatorium or something like that. Is this a physical building like a hospital where they go to overcome the wounds that they receive in their journey through physical life, or?
Well, you see, everything in Nirvana is spiritual, and there are no physical walls as such, but with your imagination, there are what you might call walls that are somewhat dense enough to provide what you might call a room or space that you would be in, and you repose on what you would call a bed, and people will come in and out to help assist you, show up for the various necessary things that are helping you to transition into the higher consciousness, to be able to actually function in nirvana, which is a much higher state of consciousness than planet Earth. So you're recuperating not only physically, if it's been a physical illness that you transposed into the other side from, but the mental and emotional aspects of bringing your consciousness higher also requires help and assistance. And yes, it is like a sanitarium, and it would, in your visualization, it would look like a possible hospital room. However, in reality, it is all spirit, and it can be in any shape or form of a place that would you would find comfort in. And those people coming and assisting you are actually in spirit, but they lower their density when people are in their transition enough so they can be seen in a like a see-through material. You might call it a window shade that you can blocks out certain things and you can't see clearly through it. So people would be able to see their image, but not the solid physical shape. So what happens is it's I don't want to say a figment of your imagination, but you see what you want to see, what works as is comfortable for you. So it can be adapted to make yourself feel as relaxed as possible, because that's when the most work can happen to help your transition.
And one last question, and we'll see if somebody else has questions. The different forms of physical life, I'm thinking of vegetable and animal and human, do they, when they end their physical existence and go back into spirit, do they manifest differently? Would a plant manifest differently on your side than an animal or a human being?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by manifest differently. Everyone is consciousness, and it is all about raising consciousness. And as you proceed through the consciousness of first dimension, which is plant life, first dimension, which would be boy, this is an interesting day. I have to get my thoughts together better.
I guess what I'm saying is, a plant that just died.
Mm-hmm.
I just lost a bunch of tomato plants. So would you see them as just a spiritual life, or would you know that they just finished a plant life?
Oh, well, definitely they will come back as another plant until that consciousness raises into a higher form, and in this case would then be an animal form. So that seed of those tomatoes, or those very small fledgling tomatoes that you were growing, still have life in them that need to be carried out and into fruitation. So since they didn't have the chance to do that, they're in spirit right now, ready to come back and be planted again, and then be nurtured into a higher consciousness for which they came to produce fruit. So as the fruit is produced from that particular seed, then it's ready to move on. It has served its purpose. So everything has a purpose, everything has an order, and if those things are not completed, then they return to do the job that was not finished and completed, and so that they can move on in their consciousness. And again, gradually, as they go through the evolutions of all consciousness, and this is one thing Casey was very strong about, is you go through every vibration to reach Christ consciousness. And so they're just fledglings on their trip and journey, and they need to go through every vibration and complete that part of their growing. And it's a very slow process. In this case, for the tomato plants, it will be another lifetime for them to be able to function and move beyond.
I haven't given up on them. I'm sending them some energy right now. I neglected to water them yesterday, and they got dried out. So.
Oh, well, they appreciate your efforts, and if it's meant to be, that is exactly what will happen. You see, life is always there. It's a matter of, does it have all the necessary elements to support that? And if the elements are there to support their continuing, they just might come back.
Let's see if somebody else has questions.
I do. John,
Mm-hmm.
what other options do we have when we reincarnate again as far as besides coming to Earth?
Well, you are definitely having options. The best options, and basically the main options, are after you have completed your consequences or sequences, I might say, on planet Earth, to go out into other realms of the solar system and either other universes. So when people come to planet Earth, they tend to find themselves reincarnating back until, just like the little tomato seed, until the completion of the purpose has been accomplished. They don't really leave planet Earth completely. You go into nirvana and you come back. People call it heaven, but it's actually levels of consciousness. In Marilyn's latest book, she has some charts there of levels of consciousness. And as you are going through those consciousnesses, those are your opportunities for spiritual growth and raising closer to Christ consciousness. When you have reached that plateau, that you are totally free of all connections to planet Earth, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically, that you have released all those things and abandoned yourself utterly to the Spirit of God, then you are free to move out into the universe and experience. There are schools for music and art and dramas and ballets. There's schools for mathematicians and scientists. You can go to other planets, and there are lots of worlds like the Earth who still needs people to come and help them understand spirituality. And you can go as a teacher, a mentor, be an example to others of how spiritual lives are, so they can learn from example. There's lots of opportunities in myriad of places. It's really, your imagination is your only thing that would stop you from going into doing whatever your heart desired.
But that's only after you've graduated from Earth. Did I understand you correctly?
That's primarily, that's how it works. There are exceptions. Nothing is totally in rules in the spiritual world. But the major emphasis, if you are coming to planet Earth, the many, many lives are considered a lifetime of healing your soul. And when you've healed your soul, then you can move on. And most people will find that they keep returning until, as one of the beautiful parts of the song Elvis sang today was that you become whole in Christ consciousness. And that is really what happens, is when you become whole, you are free of any entanglements and free. Your soul has healed enough that you are no longer bound to planet Earth. So it's easier to go to other planets or other universes.
Thank you.
John, I have
Yes.
a question.
Yes.
Since you maybe graduated and moved on, the person after they passed over, you know, I've heard where, like, say when someone passes over that they may meet their loved ones, or
Exactly.
but if maybe they're somewhere else by then.
Well,
How
that
does
can
that-
happen too. You see, when you come to planet Earth, you've come with certain lessons. Many people call it karma. And you have come to change that energy, that karmic energy, into love from the disastrous, dramatic types of situations that you have had earlier that you are needing to transform into love from the fearful basis of those other experiences. So as you come to Earth and as you change your consciousness into a higher consciousness with facing those predicaments with whoever are the people in your life that have also volunteered to come and help you do that, you have moved into higher consciousness with that completion and healing. So when you move into nirvana and your loved ones and relatives are there to greet you, and they are so pleased usually to have this wonderful reunion. And after a period of time of being, Mac asked about the transitional situation, after you are released from that transition of moving your consciousness to be able to handle nirvana, Then, if you have moved your consciousness above your family consciousness, you will then move into a like attracts like. You will move into a consciousness of those people where you have, you might say, graduated into, and you would, it's like going up Jacob's ladder. You would move into a higher consciousness and then start to have a new plan to return for more lessons to be learned as you continue moving up into higher vibrations of energy. And Mac had this experience, just as an example, Susan. He and Marilyn were sitting in the hot tub one night, and he wanted to talk with his family, and so she brought in his family. They were all eager and most happy to talk with him, but they had to wait for his uncle to come down from a higher level to join them, because he had moved into a higher spot in his growth and spiritual growth, and he came down and joined the family. So you see, as people grow, you move into different consciousness levels, and you have access to move down to family consciousness and join them whenever you choose. You do not move up to areas where you have not yet achieved that ability. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Yes, thank you. Are there any other questions for this afternoon?
I have another one, Tom.
All right.
Well, you probably remember when I asked my guides to protect my bicycle while I was in the restroom. And I came out and I saw a roan horse. Now, he apparently was manifesting in a physical body because I was able to see him. But he did not look like Roan Horse, who was an Indian guide. He looked like a workman in the park. He looked like he belonged there. So, and I've also seen Iola, and I'm just wondering, when they manifest like that, are they in a physical body that I'm seeing them, or have I raised my vibration to the point where I can see them in spiritual form?
Very good question, Mac, because you're actually asking about two different situations that you've encountered. Let me take, first of all, to explain maybe the little bit more tricky one, which is Roan Horse's experience with you. What happened in that case, he acted as a walk-in to a worker in the yard that was being employed by the maintenance people. And so he was on a break, and Roan Horse entered his body and went over and did the lessons and need of help that you were requesting to make your bike safe. So in this case, for a short period of time, he was a walk-in that you could be able to see that physically that you were being taken care of. In regards to Iola, she has been your guardian angel this whole life, which you know today. When she appeared to you at that point in time, it was at night, right? And you had been sleeping.
Yes, I woke up.
And you, at that time, were in an altered state, because that's the meditative state. You had raised your consciousness high enough, and she had lowered her consciousness low enough to be dense enough to be seen. It was kind of a meeting of the minds. It was intended that it was done at night. So you were in a state of availability to be able to see her. So if your consciousness could connect in a way that was a very important one for you, I know.
Yeah, she was there until I turned on the light, and then she was gone.
Right, because the light obliterated the density that she is. So you see, it was two different experiences that you encountered. They were not basically the same way energy worked. Wasn't the same for both of those situations. They were actually two different ways that happened.
So it kind of sounds like in the case of Roan Horse, he was entering my realm. In the case of Iola, I was entering her realm.
Well, yes, that is a nice way to put it.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Very interesting question, Mike. Mac, why do I want to call you Mike today? But things are really topsy-turvy today. The energy is moving people so fast right now. You can see how things were disarrayed before we were get together this afternoon. And this is because the energies are very moving in such rapid ways compared to how they used to. Things are not what you might call in good orderly direction. So it looked a little chaotic today. I want to apologize, but that's just how energy is happening along for a lot of people today, is that energy seems to be coming up and bringing all kinds of surprises. And this was kind of an unusual surprise. Usually things are a little smoother getting going, and it just happens to be a very active day with energy very much moving and out of order. So as it's rearranging itself, that can happen. And if are there any more questions before I leave this afternoon?
I have another question.
Oh, very,
Kathy.
very good.
Can you tell me who my guides are that are working with me now?
Oh, I'd love to. Give me one moment. You have a very lovely angel that has been your guardian angel, Adriana. She's a very pleasant lady who loves you very much. She says that it's been a pleasure working with you, and she would just wish you would ask her more often for help. Whenever you say, I need help for this one, she'll be there for you. And she wants you to know that that's her job, is to be there to answer your needs. And if you haven't been using her enough, she says, to go ahead and take advantage of it. That's what it's all about, she says. You have a fellow that's been working with you and helping you with your talents for office work and working in a organization that's quite structured. It's important. Did it click off?
No,
The red light's still on?
about 8 more minutes.
Okay. He helps you with the different tasks at work. His name is Eric. Very fine, personable man. You might say he's in his late 20s, and your gauge of age. He says that's because he's been helping you with the computer work you need to do. Does that make sense? You do computer work? He said people that are born prior to the last 10 years or so, he says, are not as geared and wired for computer comprehension. And he said you needed extra help. So he's been helping you. Your doctor, your spiritual doctor, is a minute. Is Dr. Bright. He says he's your doctor too. He happens to be one of Marilyn's spiritual doctors, Dr. Bright. He is an important doctor because he understands the vibrational changes that are necessary for the spiritual growth you're undergoing. Many doctors pass over to the other side and still contain their third dimensional view of medicine, but Dr. Bright has the ability to help you understand and work through the more refined and sophisticated changes that are going on with your medical situation, because all medicine is based on a different premise than Christ consciousness. So he's helping you in that adjustment. Oh, they hope you have a sense of humor. He's saying, your nurse is not Nurse Ratchet. Her name is Teresa, but she likes to be called Tessie. She has dark, short, curly hair. You can think of her as wearing a nurse's cap that they used to wear. And she has the shoulder cape that you used to see nurses in with the white uniform and the white stockings and the white shoes, because she is from, Mac would know about this. She's the nurse that came to Dr. Lang and recognized Dr. Lang because she worked with him in physical dimensions. Remember that, Mac?
Oh, I sure do.
She's with you. You must be going through some pretty interesting spiritual growth at this point, because she says, I understand also what Dr. Bright's helping you with, and I've worked with Dr. Lang and people that are going through this growth, and she says, I understand, and I would like to continue to work with you if that's okay with you.
Yes, thank you.
You have an entourage around you. You have a couple angels that are not your main guardian angels that say, have you had some difficult or close calls in your life where things were really quite frantic and desperate?
Yes.
They said you needed extra help.
Right.
And they were there for you. So you've had what you might call additional angels. That's not unusual. Marilyn had 6. One is called, man and a woman. Feminine and masculine energy, basically. Most people want names. They said it's not necessary to know our names, but we're here anyway. Bethany. That's a very important name, Bethany.
I almost named my daughter that.
Oh. Because they were saying Beverly's not it, but then finally Bethany, that's it, Bethany. And the male, who's been helping you? You have a very wonderful lineage of Bethany's helping you. Franklin is his name. And he likes to be called Frank, but his name is Franklin. And he has been there to assist in some of, you might say, the heavy-duty pushing work that needed to be taken care of in your situations, and assist Bethany. They have been with you since you were a teenager, they're saying. Does that sound... You must have had a fairly uncomplicated childhood, is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And as things started to progress, then they came to be of assistance. All right, they're saying those at this point are the main ones, angels and helpers. You see, they said you need to know your guide, because they guide you where you need to be. And your guide is Gabriel. Your guide is Gabriel.
Thank you.
You have some phenomenal help with you, helping you to find your way in the right spiritual paths. And he says that you pay very good attention, you're a good listener, and you follow directions well.